living on the road, my friend, gonna keep us free and clean. But now you wear your skin like iron, breath as hard as kerosene. You weren't your mama's only boy, but her favorite one, it seems. She began to cry when you said goodbye. Sank into your dreams.
Cool.
Eat your heart out, Jimmy Page.
Cool. This is
Thanks for
Cole
coming to
Mix.
Montana.
Yes. Thanks for the invite. Man, this is just so special because this past weekend, we're just coming up such a high and a vibe from Old Salt Festival. And to me, this is really what I guess nourishment means. It's not only just the food we eat, but it's just the people that we hang out with or surround ourselves with, and just all trying to have a good time, extract the most out of life, and feel really good doing it. So
Connection to community.
Connection to community. So Cole has created this festival, and this is the second year. So it was this past weekend in Helmville, Montana, and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful weekend. So this is the second year. Can you tell us a little bit just about the festival to start?
Yeah, it's a really damn good time.
Yeah, it is.
First of all,
yes,
it's meant to be a celebration of community. It's a celebration of the culture in regenerative agriculture. And so it's centered around food first, I would say. Some renowned chef teams from across the area, Baltimore, Portland, and also one from Montana, cooking meats from Old Salt and ingredients from the landscape, with the one exception of Woodbury Kitchen in Baltimore, which sources from a 30-mile landscape around, their establishment.
And they had oysters. So this is
Oysters
also
and ribeye.
oysters. And they brought the ribeye. Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
They stuffed the
oyster
ribeye
pie.
with oysters.
They did. They stuffed the ribeye with the oysters. Oh my gosh. We're going to show you the footage from this because this was fantastic to have. And it was just really cool. Also, as someone who makes recipes and likes to share them, to get these creative ideas too that you could do at home. So you can make a ribeye and then, potentially get some oysters delivered and do it yourselves, right? Or just even like the thought of even stuffing a ribeye, it never occurred to me. So even just using, things like that. So let's also talk about the food really quickly, because this wasn't just chefs from all over the world and, food forward first. This is more than food, right? It goes deeper. It has a lot of depth to it. So can you tell us a little bit about the food that was provided at the festival?
Yeah, so all of the beef and lamb and pork came from Old Salt ranches.
Yes.
We got some chicken from Tree Farmed in Minnesota. So that was the one import. They do an awesome job up there. And so the idea was ingredients with integrity, prepared beautifully, and people sharing in it. And, we've come together around food and drink and fire for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty non-polarizing way to get together.
Right.
Find common ground. And then there's a way to go deeper at the festival, which is we had managing a landscape with its full ecological function is not just about the ag, but especially in the West, where we've got so many different kind of components. You've got fisheries. So it's working with Trout Unlimited, nonprofit partners like that to restore fish habitat. It's working with the folks that are interested in grizzly and wolf connectivity between the northern continental divide ecosystem, which is just north of our ranch in Helmville, all the way to the greater Yellowstone, so that those grizzly bears can once again connect and interbreed and increase their genetic diversity and have a better chance as a population. And
so are you saying life is interconnected down
something
here?
like that.
Something. Okay.
That's a really crazy idea.
No, I love it. And to just bring it all together and all those elements and done so well. It's just, you feel it at such a soul vibe. Like, it just really resonated this weekend, and you can see it on everybody's faces too, just the participants, and then people who even volunteered or who were working there and who were working the booths, and they're the chefs out there all day in the sun. It was just incredible, and they're just like so happy to be there. So it brought more than just just that together for sure. There was just this amazing energy. And actually, funny enough, do you want to put your guitar down, by the way? You can put your guitar down.
Yeah.
Unless you want to pick up and play, that's cool too.
No, not at
any
all.
moment you
This
feel
is
it,
good.
go for it. But what I loved about this is that I actually was thinking about in health and wellness in the world where I come from and the nutritional aspect of it. I was like, there's something missing, right? It's like I feel that we have all these expos and we have these conferences and we talk all about nutrition and macros and, you know, micronutrients, and sometimes it can get a little cranial. And so I feel like there needs to be a little bit of this break, and kind of, as you mentioned too, it's just this food, fire, and, you know, community and celebration where I was I was daydreaming about it, of thinking like we need a festival with some music and like open fire grill and, you know, little sort of segments where you learn, whether it's butchery classes or, you know, I guess at the Old Salt Festival, there was also learning about mule packing and all these like little how to herd cattle and things like that. And so I was daydreaming about this, and I was on a hunt and I expressed this to somebody, and one of the facilitators was like, oh, there's something along that lines called the Old Salt Festival in Montana. I was like, are you kidding? So I looked it up, and this was probably about maybe a month ago now, or maybe less than 3 weeks. And I looked it up. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I dreamed of in real life. And then it was 2 weeks at that, or maybe 3 weeks at that point before the date. So I immediately, you know, message you guys or email you guys, and you invited me up. But I was like, this sounds amazing. And yeah, it was that and so much more.
It was what you expected?
Yeah.
Good.
More.
Good.
Definitely more. We went glamping and all of the things. So spent outside, disconnected from, you know, technology and all those things. And so I'm definitely putting in like my weekend calendar for coming back for next year too. So that's super exciting. And so maybe just to share a little bit more as well, not only was the exciting super amazing, but to learn even more about the Mannix family and sort of how this came about, the Old Salt Festival. So let's go back a little bit in time. When did you guys start the Mannix Family Ranch?
Our family got there some of them in the 1870s and some in the 1880s, and we've been managing it. I'm a city boy, live an hour away and focus on meat, but the rest of my family, my siblings, my mom and dad, my aunts and uncles, all manage this one ranch that's been in the family that long. And maybe in about 2000, there was a woman who used to bring her environmental studies students out from Missoula, and she said, have you ever thought about marketing locally and taking your cattle all the way to finish and having a beef program? And so she kind of instigated it. We started selling to a thing called the Good Food Store, and we'd sell whole carcasses, and we began to kind of wade into this world of meat processing and marketing. And I think it was after that really that we gained a sense that this commodity track that our industry is on is not going to last. We've got to evolve. We've got to build relationships with customers. We've got to continue to improve our own practices at the same time as understanding all of what happens in the downstream after they leave the ranch. And so 20 years later, today we are at this point where this little Mannix beef program that sells several hundred animals a year locally that are finished and that we're proud of, yet still 90% of what we produce is sold out of the state. We never see it again. And our goal is to extract ourselves from the commodity market. But to do that, you sort of have to rebuild an entire little food economy all the way from the production to the processing to the distribution to the marketing and retail. And that system is a really hard system to break into. It takes capital. It takes a ton of marketing expertise, stuff that we didn't have access to. And so I came to the family and I said, well, what if we partner with some other ranches? We've been here a long time and we know some producers who just do a tremendous job. And they really share this land is kin ethic. It's not just about human habitat, it's also about all the other wild critters that share this landscape. when you have an abundance of biodiversity, it's a sign of a thriving, alive ecosystem. What if we partner with those people? What if we raise capital together, get debt together, build our own processing, increase our marketing horsepower? And so today, Old Salt is about 4 years old. We have a little over 50 employees, 2 restaurants, a meat processing facility, and we're sitting at the site of our future meat processing facility.
Yes, quite the site. I mean, we have a great backdrop, but we're also looking at
It's a bit of a fixer-upper.
a fixer-upper. That was a great term for that.
That's a very unique history.
Yeah. But you guys have the 2 restaurants downtown, which I've been to. The first one, what's
So
that,
the first one is called Old Salt Outpost. It's a burger joint where we took the seed oils out, cook only in tallow, and it's very simple. There's a salad. You can usually get a dirty, sturdy salad, which means you got a patty on it.
Yeah.
And then we do Montana potatoes fried in beef tallow, and then really good burgers, and very straightforward.
Menu. Yeah, it's amazing. I don't eat out often, and I was telling you too. I'm like, typically I have a list long of questions if I do eat out often, and I had 0 questions. It was like, give me the burger and pickles. That's it, and the cheese. It's great. So you have that one, and I ate at that, and it was amazing. So if you guys are in Helena, Montana, Helena, I always get it. What did I?
Helena's just right.
Helena. Okay.
But you could call it Helena.
Helena. Okay. So if you guys are in Helena, Montana, please go eat there. It is amazing and obviously high quality.
And then the next one that we opened about 9 weeks ago, maybe.
Oh wow, that's a brand new. I didn't realize
it's
that.
a butcher shop and a wood-fired grill.
Right.
And so 8 to 6 we do the market butcher shop, and then after 5 is the wood-fired grill. And it's basically, instead of producers having to meet the needs of a restaurant, it's kind of a restaurant designed to move the whole animal on behalf of the producer.
I love that.
And so we've got premium cuts that rotate what it is, butcher's cuts, which is sort of a step down that rotates what it is, and we've got a lot of cured meats and pate and copa and some really delightful appetizers. So
I stepped in there today so you could see some of what before tonight's sort of dinner rush, and I'm excited to have dinner with you there tonight. It's just like, it looks beautiful and amazing. And so there's all sorts of pates, and I actually got a beef stick to go that I'm going to put on the plane with me tomorrow. So that's exciting.
And that was our first place. This other place we lease. We lease the ability to serve in a bar, and this was a place where we could host, and we could organize events, and it could really be our home base, kind of a flagship for Old Salt, and where we can present as the food in its very best light. It's kind of a shame to feel so proud of it all the way up until it leaves your control.
Yeah.
And so now we can present the end product in a beautiful way to the community. That's really rewarding.
That's amazing. And it's just like, again, through and through, it's such a cool vibe in both of those spots. So we have a sort of a collective of these farmers who want to go in on just, absorbing the successes and the challenges and sort of to create this really sustainable collective. And then we've created the 2 restaurants.
And then we launched the e-commerce meat brand. And we have a tiny little processing facility where we live in a shoebox, but are really learning how to do it, how to get the right people, what it costs to do each step in the process, and then preparing this down the road facility where we're sitting at that property now. But I think there's 5 different producers that are the suppliers of Old Salt right now. But I think the most important thing about Old Salt is that those producers govern our board, and they have a stake in our success. And so they don't just sell the animal to the company, but they have a share in the restaurant margin, they have a share in the processing margin, they have a share in the e-commerce margin. And the why that's important is because regenerative agriculture is not magic. You don't just choose practice A, which is better, over practice B, which is less good. Instead, you have to have talent and passion and commitment applied over time, and that takes dollars. You have to be able to afford the Cooper Hibbards of the world and the Hillary Andersons of the world to be able to come back to these places and apply Cooperhead in order to get ready to manage his family's place He went to Cal Poly and then Colorado and then Mexico and then Patagonia and then Australia. And he was just honing himself to be somebody who could be incredibly productive of food while making an ecosystem better over time.
Mm-hmm.
Better soils, more productive soils, soils that hold the water that they get, habitat that is teeming with life. And to do that, it takes a tremendous amount of, it's like being an incredible artist. You don't just choose to be one. You don't just say, oh, I think if I could be the good one or the bad one, I'd definitely choose the good one. You ask me to paint a picture and it's gonna, no matter how much I want it to do the right thing, it's gonna be shitty. And Cooper and Andrew and these other members they've given their lives to saying, look, we need to leave this better for future generations.
Right.
And in order for us to feel good about selling this food, we have to feel good that the land behind the label was fully intact and thriving. That's what will make the person really nourished.
So you don't believe in really commodity beef farming then?
Well, I think that like anything, once you start to dive in, it's complex, and it all depends. It depends on the whole system. And so I see some shiny brands out there that have beautiful labels and a beautiful story,
Right.
but I know enough about what's behind it to not trust it.
Right.
I also see some brands that do use feedlots, but I happen to know a lot of the producers, and I know that at least a great deal of that supply chain had a great deal of integrity. So I guess what I don't really trust the ability of a label
Right.
or a set of claims
Right.
to communicate much of value.
Right.
And that's really the reason for the festival.
Right.
It's like, come, smell the soil, look at these streams,
Right.
look around you,
Yeah.
and decide for yourself whether this is trustworthy.
Right. And you could just look at it and it's healthy, right? And it's like you're eating from this land. And so if you go to any commodity beef, farm, it doesn't look healthy. And so there are a lot of, studies that do show commodity farm versus, pasture raised, 100% grass-fed beef farms. And there are differences for sure in the micronutrient density of it. As well as, then you go beyond that and you talk about the land and the soil and what the future holds for these different ranches and these different farms. So for me, this is important for me too, is so that we can ask questions, we can connect more with our ranchers, with our cowboys, with our farmers, or producers even, just to understand what's going on kind of behind the scenes and not just rely on a label, because I know my audience knows what I post online, and I'm passionate about transparency. And so when those labels are on, you go to the grocery store and you see these labels and you expect something, but it's really not real, because there's plenty of loopholes to even get that label on. So there's always some room for, potential, like grass-fed label isn't really grass-fed, right? There's sort of loopholes around it. It's
Or
it
even-
doesn't have to be called that. Or,
Even if the label is very true. I'm thinking of a brand in Montana. I've known them for a long time, and certainly don't name names, but it's organic, grass-fed, and it's got it's humane. But I've driven past that land many times, and that land is dying. And so it's not just about the absence of certain
Sure.
things. You really have to have the presence of truly thoughtful management where that ground is getting healthier over time.
Yeah.
Because if those microbes aren't working in the soil, the nutrient profile in the product is not going to be
Right,
up to snuff.
right.
And conversely, there are people that are using grain in ruminants that have thriving landscapes behind them. And
Right.
they're using grain kind of very intentionally where, hey, this brewery has spent grains that otherwise would be a waste product. I'm going to use it to boost protein in a certain portion of the year.
Sure.
And the animal is still, out there being a critter in open space and with a
Right.
diverse mix to eat.
Sure.
And so it's complicated. It's a little hard to just
Right.
give people a good or bad signal.
Right. And I think that's why, some of these discussions are really important too, because I've even softened my stance too when I didn't, know as much as when I did, starting back sort of an animal base. It's just each day I want to move towards learning more and always weighing sort of the pros and cons. But at least I know that I have that choice though too. If I'm talking to you, I know what's, happening within your business and then beyond and the land, and I can still make that choice. So it's really just about making intentional choices based off of your lifestyle and your needs and who you want to reinforce and support with your dollars at home. So I really appreciate just the transparency, not only in, just what you share online, but also opening up your land to the community to like, hey, come see it. Like, look how beautiful it is. And you don't get that everywhere. So we really appreciate that too as a consumer. So we're moving towards this beef online program. And what types of, I guess, items are you selling then on there? And this is direct to consumer. You can order it like right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We sell bundle boxes, and you can subscribe or you can just buy it one time.
Sure.
And some of them are species specific. So we'll have a beef box and a lamb box and a pork box. But we also sell them in mixes. We sell smoked and fresh sausages. We sell a la carte as well. So you can just kind of choose what to put into your cart. Cool. And we are just kind of getting our feet on the ground with the world of e-commerce. It definitely takes a lot to figure out, okay, where are we going to ship to, and
right.
what packaging are we going to use, and how do you make sure to utilize everything on an animal and not build up one thing in inventory versus another thing. And
right.
So learning the world of e-commerce we're just kind of venturing out on that path. But it's pretty clear to us that the conventional channels of just selling to a distributor who then sells to a box store
right.
is not viable.
Right.
So we really need to find our community.
Yes, I agree. And so, but just, you guys are such good people, and it's just, it's really nice to just connect with you guys just as humans. And so I know we spoke a little bit earlier too about a little bit about your lifestyle. I know you tried the carnivore diet for quite some time, and you are very meat centric. Like that is your diet and focused on that. So do you want to tell us a little bit about, your personal food lifestyle?
Yeah, I just think for me, animal foods they're for the base, they're fundamental. And it's kind of seek simplicity in life. And if you're going to seek simplicity, then you got to make sure the things that are in your life are solid. And I really trust animal foods in a way that when you go to the festival is also about the fundamentals. I trust music. I trust in-person engagement with real people. Right. I trust gathering. We've done that for eons. And so music, eating together, animal-based foods, to me, that's just really straight down the path. And I haven't been carnivore for some time, although I keep thinking I'm going to try it again. But my late nights up on the computer and whiskey drinking aren't helping that any. But it's anyway. It's interesting. I used to work for a conservation policy group. We worked on things like the Endangered Species Act, Farm Bill. We were the folks that were our members and our funders were very interested in big, wide open landscape and connected wildlife habitat, and they were very interested in combating climate change. And at the same time, I had gone to school with a whole bunch of folks on the East Coast it was their impression that ranching, bad for the environment, meat, bad for health.
Sure.
So I really started examining those things because it had been the water I swam in. It was the air I breathed. It was where I grew up.
Right.
And I came to, realize it is complicated, and yet I've seen forms of livestock agriculture that are so incredibly beautiful and hopeful that they're worth giving everything to. And I think people tend to somehow, maybe it's the bloodiness or the fact that death is so up in front with meat.
Right.
But I think people tend to hold a meat to a different standard. The deadest landscapes I have ever seen are monoculture grain.
Right.
And that's on the most fertile ground in our country. So it's basically just it's almost like a slider, and you slide it one way and you see this desertified losing water, all the soil's running down the stream, the life has gone out. Slide that the other way and you see a landscape that's teeming and alive. You know which one you want to eat from.
Right.
You don't have to get too complicated down the science rabbit hole.
Right.
So
it's almost like that's almost a result of like trying too hard to farm into one thing, and whereas I feel nature is so diverse, and the more and more that I hop around, even, nationwide, and just the different landscapes, it's different places that I'm at, the diverse weather and, everything. It seems that you just have to get out of the way and be a response team to what nature has to offer. It's very dynamic, right? So this biodynamic mentality is really sort of what nourishes the land, and also, honestly, for humans to get out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, you could just leave. If we weren't here, then we wouldn't have the question of how do you, do biodynamic ranching or farming, because nature would be fine.
Yes.
And it would be naturally diverse.
Right.
But if we're going to ask real significant food production from landscape, which we have to more and more, that takes, to do that at the same time as maintaining biodiversity, it's not about just kind of going and gleaning what nature happens to offer, right? And that's where it does take significant intervention, but it takes the right kind of intervention that is essentially biomimicry. It's trying to say, how do I take what would have happened before settlement,
Right.
work with nature, augment and speed up those things that are really good, but basically not be so invasive as the plow,
Right.
To me, the plow is kind of the ultimate symbol of dominating a landscape. I'm not criticizing all farming.
Sure.
But pastoralism and trying to mimic what the bison or elk would have done in our region of the world with sheep and goats and beef. By the
nature of like walking and their hooves and the sort of like digging that goes on with their hooves and
coming
the microbes.
in, impacting a plant community, fertilizing that plant community, and then getting off and resting in the right, it has to rest in the right season.
Right.
And that sounds kind of simple and easy, but developing water to be able to handle big herds that come in, need enough water to drink, and then leave, especially in dry upland native country, and then developing the herding skill sets and learning to work with dogs and learning to work with horses,
Right.
and figuring out how to stay away from those sensitive areas where you don't want to create conflict with the grizzlies who are moving through there at that time of the year.
Right.
Like, that's an art form.
Yeah.
And then monitoring that, measuring it, and then based on the data, tweaking it and trying to improve over time. That's why you have to have talented people
Right.
who deeply care managing these ecosystems.
And you do, and we were at the ranch yesterday with Andrew, right? And he has J-Bar L Ranch. He's sort of managing the land there, and really, like, what he's doing is incredible with the beavers and, getting the conserving the water. And
Beavers hold that water in the high
Yeah.
country, let it seed, produce a ton of habitat, slow it down,
Right.
slow its departure from the highland
Right.
down.
And as one of those partners too, and it's just like, it's just really cool to see these partners who work with Old Salt, because Andrew was incredible. He's such a fantastic human, and I just, of course I'm going to trust you guys when it comes to what I'm consuming, as just, eating beef and eating lamb or eating pork from any one of these farms. It's just incredible. And what he was doing, it's really cool to come out. And so hopefully, actually, I was talking to Logan, who is also amazing human, also works with the Old Salt crew, and she was just telling me about upcoming retreats and maybe not even retreats, just like workshops and things like that, where we can come on the land and just not only experience it, but just really be a part of the community and, have something cooler to do on the weekends anyways, and learn about your food and learn more.
If you find yourself within striking distance of Helena,
Yes.
the Union is not to miss.
Yeah, you don't even have to. I would drive from Austin, Texas,
Road
a
trip.
20-hour road trip just to come up here, because that is what I do and how I prioritize quality food. So, okay, so we asked you a personal question as far as carnivore, you feed your kids, obviously, the beef that you
Mm-hmm.
guys provide, right? So that's always a testament too. It's like if you're going to feed your family this meat and this beef, it's just obviously you want the best for your kids and the best nutrition. So you have a family, which is amazing. And what else, I guess, gets you up in the morning?
I just kind of want to, when I die, I just want my carcass to be a fertile thing. You know?
Wants to be part of the land.
That
Land is kin.
Fred Provenza spoke at the festival. He's a
Ah.
wonderful animal behavioralist. Worked for Utah State for many years, but he's really a poet philosopher too.
He was the one who was just. He has this book out called Nourishment, and he probably has some more, which I haven't gone down that path. But this book really just, it spoke to my soul, and he's so amazing. And when I saw Fred Provenza on the Old Salt lineup, I'm in. I got to call these
Reach
guys.
out and ask Lindsay for Fred's transcript from that talk. It
Yeah.
is truly beautiful.
Oh,
Just
great.
shared it with me.
Okay.
And he said,
Amazing.
share it far and wide.
Mm-hmm.
It's really incredible. And anyway, the carcass thing is Fred's line
Yeah.
from the end of that.
Yes.
But I think another just good way to think about the goal is the difference between a canal and a stream. Like we have created they both get water from point A to point B, but a stream creates all this life along it. All these little critters live in all the inefficiencies of a stream and all the diversity of a stream. And we've really created what is a big canal of a food system.
Mm-hmm.
So putting the life back in it and streamifying our egg is really the goal.
Right.
And it's you get all these producers tomorrow, if they were the most excellent land managers in the world, they would fail if the rest of the food system stays the same, because it's set up to extract from production. So the point is, producers aren't enough. We've got to change processing, got to change retail, and the customers have so much power.
Yeah.
And we need just anyone who shares these values about a climate that can be stable enough to support a good, wonderful place to live for our kids and on into the future, and food that is not adulterated and really nourishes your body.
So let's speak about what the customer can do is, or the consumer rather. It's, I can't reinforce it enough where whatever you are reinforcing with your dollars is what you are supporting. And, just one of the major challenges of this way of farming or of ranching is that it can be pricey on the end. So what can a consumer do to help support yet try to balance that sort of cost perspective?
Yeah.
Like, are there little tips and tricks? Because I know sometimes I offer, maybe at least once every month purchase something from a regenerative farm or grass-fed farm or, ranchers that or maybe just start learning about it, pick up a book and start reading about it.
There's no substitute for just engaging wherever your nearest point of engagement is and beginning to absorb yourself. I think, like, especially with something as intimately important to your life and your family's life as food, there's kind of no way to read the cliff notes. So I would say find a landscape that seems accessible to you, where there seems to be some life there.
Right.
And then get to know a few of those people in that landscape and ask them questions. And if they may not know all the answers, but they will know some, and you might have something to teach them. That's how my own family came to start a beef program. Is somebody from town said, "Hey, have you ever thought to do this?" And so we learn from each other.
Right.
I think that's how you build a relationship, and over time you may change your opinions, they may change their opinions, and you both evolve and grow. So there's sort of no substitute for that engagement. I find that Diana Rogers, I love the mission that she has. I think that information is balanced and fair, and it's not propaganda.
Right. I love the balance. It just kind of, I'm just a big, person on just picking, little golden nuggets, I like to call them, and balance it in my own life too, because one person's balance may not be, the others. And so people like this you can follow and learn. And then another thing you could do too is just, maybe stay tuned to my channel, my Instagram, your guys' Instagram, which I'll put all of the links and stuff like that down below, on when you can participate in the next Old Salt Festival.
Absolutely.
Next year, okay? And so that's one thing. Just put that on your calendar, but follow us.
Right around the solstice.
Right around the solstice.
Good marker.
Okay. So maybe we want to give them a little sample of it too.
A little sample of the
Yeah.
festival. Well, I don't play at the festival because I'm a hack, but I do play in my spare time.
It was like an open mic thing. And I was like, this is great. This is my producer, my rancher. And I love this so much about you because I feel like my question earlier on before we kind of went, down the land rabbit hole was that, why do you wake up in the morning from a personal standpoint, right? It's like, why does coal, what is your purpose and what is your why? And so I really felt like, too, when you were doing this open mic at the guitar, it was just something that you really felt connected to and aligned and shine. And that was kind of, maybe you didn't say it outright, but felt like your why in ways.
Yeah, we have. When I was going to school, there was a bunch of people that used to just jam at this little coffee shop next to the college. And it just struck me that that's making fun outside of a screen. That's something I could do when I'm, even when I'm old and gray. And maybe I can't hike like I could before. And it's community. It's like playing in the Irish session or playing across the street at that coffee shop. It just seemed like the right kind of fun.
Yeah.
So I have a hack band called Copper Queen.
Copper Queen.
It's named after the bar in our one store town, and the store is the bar.
Oh my gosh.
You can get your milk there.
You get your milk there. I love it.
It's not exactly a natural food store, but it is the hub for the community in Helmville, Montana.
It's perfect. It is the perfect hub. So maybe we'll give them a little sneak peek at what the Old Salt does for us and community. I'm all about that.
I'm going to copy a Coulter Wall song called Rocky Mountain Rangers.
All right.
Because we're going to really try to get Coulter to come next year. So if you're listening.
If you're listening, putting out the vibes.
If you're on Animal Base Bay, Coulter Wall. Unfit was I for the Scarlet Mounties, dandy dude, townies, drunkard down and outies, but I knew some boys I once called family, mounted high in the year of '85. Major Stewart went down and he left his cows back in Fort McLeod when the news circled round that the Métis had enough. And there's rustlers on the prowl and a sin a boy needs us boys to straighten her out. So it's Rocky Mountain Rangers riding over the plains, sir, of all the Western cavalry. There's none any stranger. Rocky Mountain Rangers, well equipped for danger, mounted high in the year of '85. One evening's patrolling the Cypress Hills, well, we drank up our fill and the hour was still when a Winchester shot like a ringing of a bell. Those boys of Gabriel Dumont's shooting us to hell. So it's raise up your 6 guns, lest we be undone. Rake some fur, slack them rein, let your ponies run, run. How I survived, I may never understand, son. Woolly times in the year of '85. It's Rocky Mountain Ranger. You can sing riding over the plains, serve all the Western cavalry. There's none any strangers. Rocky Mountain Rangers, well equipped for danger, mounted high in the year of '85. Yeah. Disbanded in the year of '85.
Ooh, cool. Thank you.
You need to get a dance partner.
I know, I almost did, but thank you so much, honestly, for just sharing your story, sharing, your creativity, and just honestly bringing community together. It's really, I'm so grateful for people like you, and you, I mean, specifically as well.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Yes.
And thank you for traveling all the way up to Montana.
Thank you.
to meet
Of
us.
course. I mean, anything to get at Texas heat. No, but seriously, this drove me up here because this is really special. So where can we find you guys online? Tell us all the channels.
You can find us at oldsaltcoop.com. So co-op is co-op.com. And you can find Old Salt Festival on Instagram and Facebook. You can find The Union by Old Salt on Instagram and Facebook. You can find the Old Salt Outpost on the same channels. And you can find Old Salt Co-op. That's kind of our home channel. And that's where all the content about the ranches and the practices out on the land and the why.
Yeah, so start
Really
learning this way too. So, and I'll link all of those down below. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and hopefully you guys entered into that giveaway in the comments down below. Thanks again, Cole. Honestly,
Thank you.
You guys are special humans.
Bet right back at you.
Thanks.
Living on the road, my friend, gonna keep us free and clean.